Welcome aboard to the 2023 Volkswagen Arteon SEL-R line, one of the greatest cars that Volkswagen has ever made, and unfortunately, after the 2024 model year, they're actually going to be discontinued, believe it or not. But you can get one of these 2023 model years with a $7,000 dealer discount at the particular dealership that I'm reviewing this car at today. I'd also like to give a massive shout out to Findlay Volkswagen for allowing me to come and check out this 2023 Volkswagen Arteon. Better yet, that puts it right at the price of the base model SE-R line, and you still get 300 horsepower, 4-motion all-wheel drive, leather seating surfaces, remote start, memory seats, and power folding mirrors. So it's a fantastic package for what you're getting. So let's check it out. The Arteon is a beautiful looking thing. Just look at it. I mean, the front end looks beautiful. It has a little bit of a weird looking front grille, but the LED headlights and turn signals look freaking fantastic. You also have the all-weather lights. The side profile is definitely my favorite though. It's got this line running all the way down the side. It's got these really nice door handles. We have keyless entry on this vehicle, by the way. The power folding door mounted mirrors also look really cool. And when you lock it, I mean, come on. When they fold, nothing looks cooler than when you pull up and lock your car and the mirrors just automatically fold, especially if you're doing it with the keyless entry. And on the back, we have a hatch, which is just so much fun. We have LED taillights and turn signals. We have this little bumper dillo thing on the back. Yes, that's actually what it's called, but it's a pretty good looking back end. And to open it, you just push the Volkswagen badge in and just lift it like that. It's a really fun rear end of the Volkswagen Arteon. So overall, the exterior is beautiful, but the interior, I think, is really where it stands out. So once you're inside, you have these really nice leather seats with big bolsters, meaning it's very comfortable. I feel like I could sit in here and just cruise and just drive as long as I want to. The steering wheel is really nice too. It's got a nice big flat bottom. It's got these nice perforations, these big 9-3 grips here. And the steering wheel controls are not the greatest, but there's a lot of them. So on the left are your cruise controls. On your right's your controls for your digital driver's display. It's a little bit smaller in something like an Audi A4, but it's very customizable and easy to use. There's a tack and a speedo next to each other, which is still great to see in 2024. And you've got a somewhat physical fuel gauge and oil temp gauge too, so you can see when your engine's all warmed up. You also have these little plastic paddle shifters. They don't have the best feel to them, but for a car like this, you're not really expecting crazy paddle shifters. The turn signal stocks have a great feel like most VWs do. You have high beam assist, wiper controls also feel great. There's a little button on the end of the turn signal stock. If you click that, you can actually enable and disable your adaptive cruise control along with a bunch of other safety assist systems. I like that they give you the ability to turn everything off if you want, and it even stays off until the next time you turn the car on. Now, this really great steering wheel is also tilting and telescoping, so there's a lot of adjustment to get comfortable in the Arteon. And not only is that adjustable, but like I said earlier, the armrest has 3 different tiers of adjustment, and it's also extendable, so I can just put my arm here and just grip the steering wheel, making it very nice to cruise. Another feature I really like for this wintry climate is the fact that we have a heated steering wheel. It's got 3 tiers of adjustment. When it comes to headlight technology, we have automatic fully LED headlights, high beams, daytime running lights, turn signals, and taillights with all-weather lights as well. And over here we have what I like to call a driver's side glove box. It's big enough to put like an iPod Nano in, but I don't really see what you're really going to be using this for. It does have a nice felt lining inside though. The interior has a lot of soft touch materials throughout the place. It's got this little carbon fiber plasticky bits here, but I like how they made the dashboard nice and padded, bringing it up to par with an Audi A4, which is what you're realistically going to be cross-shopping this with. However, down here you do get some harder plastics. Even the armrest has like this harder plastic, but it's still kind of padded. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's not a deal breaker for me. We have one touch down and up for all 4 windows, which is great. Your mirror controls are down here, and like I said before, you can even power fold the mirrors if you want. Now, the door bins have cheap plastic on the bottom, but they do have a little felt lining, meaning that you won't really have rattle noises if you put water bottles in there. But I think the star of the show is this infotainment system. It's an 8-inch head unit with wireless and wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It's pretty easy to use and pretty customizable. It's very fluid, and I really wish that this is what Volkswagen was putting in their newer cars. And believe it or not, it actually has some form of gesture control. So if I swipe my hand, I can actually move the home screen from page to page. It's really gimmicky, but kind of just a cool feature to show off to your friends if you so choose. It doesn't work that well, but it is kind of funny. If you swipe down, you can adjust your instrument cluster and panel lighting and just customize a bunch of different things. Another sweet feature I really want to demonstrate to you guys is the ambient lighting. Now I believe on the SEL R line and up, you actually get color changing ambient lighting, which is a feature that on the A4 you have to upgrade all the way up to the Prestige just to get. So we hit the car button here and you can see all these settings, click on ambient lighting, and just like that, you can adjust from all different kinds of colors. You want a gold kind of color, you can go here, red, yellow, green, blue. It's one of the most configurable systems in the industry. Plus, you can adjust your brightness on various areas, so you can have the dash less of a brightness than the door panels if you want, and there's even footwell lighting too. I would love to show you guys this in the daylight, but it is way too sunny today and I have not been able to find a spot to film, so I'm gonna try my best to show you guys the ambient lighting. It kind of shines through the door trim, which is really nice, but it also shows through the digital gauge cluster. So let me cycle through the colors and you can see it slowly update in the gauge cluster. So this gauge cluster is even more configurable. You can change whatever color you want depending on the mood you're in. Down here are your touch sensitive climate controls. I like how they're not built into the screen. You have 3 stages of heated seats. If you do want ventilated seats, you can upgrade to the SEL Premium R line, which by the way also has a $7,000 dealer discount at this dealership. But the touch controls are actually not bad to use, believe it or not. You can change it from low to high really quickly. And there's actually little ridges so you can feel what you're adjusting while you're driving. So again, that's not going to be a total deal breaker for me. And just beneath there's this little door. You can put your phone in there. It's not a wireless charger, but it's a great way to hide your phone if you're doing wireless CarPlay. Right here is your shifter for your 7-speed DSG. It did used to be an 8-speed automatic, but now they have changed it out for the dual clutch DSG gearbox. There's essentially 1 clutch for upshifting and 1 clutch for downshifting. It's actually a pretty nice shifting transmission and it's very fun to drive. And then of course we have everybody's favorite button, the auto engine start stop off button. You do have to turn that on every single time you turn on the car. That might be a deal breaker to some people, but to me, it's not at all. And then right above that, there's a little drive mode button. You have a bunch of different driving modes, including Eco, Comfort, Normal, Sport, and my favorite, which is Custom. And in Custom mode, you can adjust the DCC steering, drivetrain, adaptive cruise control, light assist, and your climate control. And with the climate control, you can just change it to normal or eco, so you can make it so it saves more fuel, I assume, but extremely customizable, and it makes this car a lot more fun to drive. Now, along with the other blank switches, if we hit the park button, we have a rear view camera with PDC or park distance control. We don't have a full 360 camera. If you do want that, again, the SEL Premium R line is going to get that for you, but we do still have 360 parking sensors, which is great. And then if we take a gander to just beneath that, we have this nice little door, which gives us access to our big cup holders. These fit a cup of coffee perfectly, especially since they have 4 teeth, meaning that cup is not going anywhere. And to the left of that, we have your electromechanical finger brake. I know I wish it had a hand brake too, but it is what it is nowadays. We also have your auto hold, which is great. So if I put the car in drive and I put the e-brake off, if I hit the auto hold button, I can actually take my foot off the brake and the car will not move. It'll actually hold it in place, which is fantastic, especially if I'm waiting at a red light for a really long time. That's a great feature to see, especially since that is not even offered on the Audi A4 in the US. Over here, we have this little compartment. You can put your key fob there. The key fob, by the way, is beautiful. I love the silver chrome bits. This one's actually not too badly scratched up, considering that this one's actually been sitting here for quite some time. But on the key fob is a remote start button, lock and unlock buttons, and even a button for your power hatch. And just underneath there's a little 12-volt socket. Center armrest gives you some decent space. You have 2 USB-C ports. It's pretty deep with some nice felt lining. And then over here, there's a glove box with some more felt lining. There's a button to lock your trunk, which is pretty cool, and a little box for, I'm presuming, where the head unit is. It used to have little SD card slots, but unfortunately they got rid of that on the facelift. Now, although this is a lockable glove box, one of my criticisms is it's got some cheap plasticky bits there. Not a big deal in my opinion. So not only do we have a standard size sunroof, you can upgrade if you want a panoramic sunroof, by the way, but you could also store your sunglasses in here for those sunny days. And here are all your controls for your sunroof, so you can open that, let all of that windy weather into the car, but it's quite miserable today, so I'm just gonna shut that for right now. And of course we have your LED dome lights. They actually feel quite nice to use. I like how they're not a touch sensitive button, they're just an easy to use physical button. And then right here we have your auto dimming compass mirror with HomeLink. Now once you're in the backseat of the Arteon, you'll immediately notice just how much room you have back here. Even though we have a sloped roof, we actually have a decent amount of headroom. But if you're a bit of a taller person, you want to slouch down, you actually have so much legroom in between you and the driver's seat in front. This is in my default driver position. I'm about 5'8.5", so there's plenty of room for people over 6 feet to thoroughly enjoy the Arteon. Now back here, we still have some soft touch on the door panels, even though it is actually a different material from the front since you lose the stitching. We do still have the same weird padding on the armrest back here, but I like how they didn't necessarily cheap out on the back door panels too much. There are some hard plastics down here, but you still get felt for your door pockets. One thing that I like that they didn't cheap out on back here is the driver and passenger side door pockets. I would actually argue that these would be better in an Audi A4 since those have like the fishnet style. These will hold things way better than that will. Back here you have your very own air vents, although if you do upgrade it to the SEL Premium R line, you not only get your own zone of climate control in the back, but you also get heated seats for the outboard 2 seats. And I really like the way the two-tone looks back here too. You have the nice inserts in the back. You got some decent bolster support, meaning you're gonna be pretty comfortable back here on a long drive. We have your own dome lights, they're LED. The headliner does feel a little hollow, but to me, that's not really a big deal. It's nice and black, so it's gonna hide dirt pretty well. The outboard 2 seats also have ISOFIX anchors, and what I really like about them is if you push down, you can actually access the hook without having to take the cap off. And right beneath there, you have a little 12-volt socket with a nice little flip-down door, but sometimes you might need to carry a 5th passenger. Let's see what the middle seat comfort is like. Once I get in the middle, there's this massive transmission tunnel in the middle, which sends my feet to the outboard 2 leg areas, but my size 11 Air Force Ones fit perfectly in here. I still have a decent amount of headroom, although my co-passengers aren't gonna have much width room there. It does feel like I am sitting on a hump seat. I recommend this only for no longer than like a 20-minute drive. This is really meant to carry 4 passengers, but in an emergency, you could carry a 5th if you wanted to. The center armrest is also pretty nice. It has some pretty big padding, and in the center, you have 3 different sizes of cup holders, although, in my opinion, I would consider this 2.5 cup holders. So not only is this a center armrest, but if you pull this little lever here, this actually creates a pass-through to the rear trunk area. So if you're carrying skis or large pieces of timber, you can run them all the way from the back all the way to the front without having to fold the seats down. So speaking of the trunk area, let's go ahead and take a look at that right now. And we can open that liftgate very easily by just pressing that. Since it is powered, it lifts up just like so. And since this is more so a hatchback rather than a trunk, you get loads of room back here. Get your own little dome lights on both sides. We have loads of space here, and you can see the vehicle already comes with like a roadside assistance kit and a first aid kit, so you're gonna wanna put that right there. We have little tethering points throughout over here too. We also have the Volkswagen Cargo Protection System, which is a variety of different little boxes to hold your grocery bags in place. I actually love using that feature. If we lift this up, we can gain access to our false floor, which has a space saver spare wheel plus our jack. Fantastic if you ever get stuck on the side of the road. We also have the fully removable parcel shelf, so you can treat it like a sedan, or you can treat it like a hatchback if you want. Of course, we have 60-40 split folding seats, which can be folded from the interior, and I actually think this is way easier than folding them from the trunk like in some of the sedan models. One thing that is a little annoying though is that they are not fully lockable in the case of theft, which is why most automakers choose to put them in the liftgate or trunk area. But they are 60-40 split folding, meaning that you can carry long objects while also having passengers in the back. And once you're all done back here, you can either press this button or you can actually just start bringing it down and it'll just automatically close it for you. How sweet is that? So it's time to talk driving impressions of the Volkswagen Arteon SEL R line. This thing is actually very fun to drive. You got the 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder with 300 horsepower, which is crazy. And then, of course, you got the 7-speed DSG. So that's just an irrefutable formula for a fun-to-drive VW. I believe it's derived from the EA888 Gen 3 engines, which means that it is going to be pretty reliable, too. The only thing that I have heard is that the thermostat housing can go bad at around 50,000 miles. So if you're looking to get one of these used, that is definitely something to keep in mind. I believe that the pre-facelifts had around 250-ish horsepower, and those actually had a much smoother 8-speed automatic, but the 7-speed DSG is very responsive. You have a pretty good throttle response, even though we have a top-mounted pedal instead of the preferred bottom-mounted pedal. It's still very quick and gets you to the speed limit with literally no issues at all. There's definitely a little bit of a turbo lag, but that power, once you get into the middle rev range, it just punches. It's a very punchy engine. Again, you don't have it right off the line, but you have it not soon after. When it comes to steering feel, we have dynamic steering, which means it's only 2 turns lock to lock. So it's an incredibly easy to drive vehicle. It is electric power steering, so it's very light. I can do it pretty easily with just 1 finger. Now, if I change the steering into sport mode, it does tighten the steering a little bit, and I put it back into normal. It'll make it just a smidge lighter. I believe it is also speed sensitive, so when you go at a little bit quicker speeds and you're weaving through traffic on the highway, you are going to have a bit of a tighter steering feel. So even though it doesn't have a ton of weight, it provides plenty of feel. The brakes are also really good too. They're actually pretty sharp in this vehicle, and they'll bring you to a standstill from 60 pretty quickly. Now, when it comes to driving position and your seat comfort, we do have power seats on this trim level, and we also have lumbar support in 4 different directions. So it goes this way, and it also goes this way. So yeah, these seats are definitely the most comfortable seats that VW offer in any of their cars right now. And with the bolster support, with the armrest support, this is such a comfortable car to cruise in. Road noise is also fantastic too. When you're on the highway, it's almost whisper quiet. It's pretty much like it is right now. You do get a bit of wind noise depending on how windy it is that day, obviously, but it's still a pretty quiet car to drive. Now, the suspension is also pretty good in the vehicle too. I did drive over a pothole when I was driving on the highway, and it just shook a little bit, but nothing crazy. It's a pretty smooth ride on the highway. You don't get any kind of wobble or anything. And when it comes to using everything on the road, these touch-sensitive steering wheel buttons are kind of a pain to use. It's not nearly as bad as having something like the climate controls hidden behind a bunch of sub-menus, but it is a little weird getting used to pressing these buttons. Like, I was just trying to adjust the cruise control. It took me like a mile before I figured out how to turn off the adaptive cruise control and just put the normal cruise control on. But the buttons themselves are actually really easy to use. If these just had physical button counterparts, none of those issues would exist. Now, the good news is Volkswagen is getting rid of the touch-sensitive steering wheel buttons in the 2025 Golf GTI, but unfortunately the Arteon won't live long enough to see that change applied to it. However, the pre-facelift Arteons did come with physical steering wheel controls with the older style steering wheel, which is arguably a little bit better, although not as cool looking as this one. So not only do you get adaptive cruise control and lane keeping assist, but you also get blind spot indicators too. So it's a really easy car to drive. Now, using the climate controls while you're on the road is actually not nearly as bad as you think. Again, they have little ridges in between, and the heated seat buttons are very easy to press, even though they're not physical buttons. They're incredibly responsive, so not a bad thing at all. And again, if you're looking for a used Arteon, they did have the older style Climatronic controls, which had the 3 dial setup, which I personally like way better, and I'm sure you guys do too. Now, the only annoying thing is that the automatic shift knob actually blocks a little bit of the climate controls, which it doesn't so much in vehicles like the Volkswagen Jetta or Volkswagen Passat. Definitely something to keep in mind there. However, if the shifter is in drive, it actually doesn't block them at all. And another thing to point out is that the Volkswagen Arteon is also built in Germany, meaning that once they discontinue the Arteon, there's going to be no more German-built VWs in the United States, at least for a while. I don't know 100% if the ID4 is built in Germany, but as far as internal combustion engine vehicles go, this is the last Euro Volkswagen you'll be able to buy if you're an American customer. And these are fantastic vehicles. So if you're looking for a fun to drive mid-size sedan, if you're in the market for something like a 3 Series or an A4, I highly recommend cross-shopping the Volkswagen Arteon, because with 300 horsepower from a 4-cylinder engine, 4-motion all-wheel drive, all the safety assist systems you could ever want, and keeping in mind that you could still get the SEL Premium R line, which has things like a 360 camera, ventilated seats, and a bunch of other features that make this better than something like an Audi A4, and remote start, then I highly recommend you take a look at this Volkswagen Arteon and go check one out at your local dealership for yourself before it is too late. So with that in mind, thank you so much for watching my review of the Volkswagen Arteon SEL R-Line. And if you're looking for an SEL Premium R-Line, I do recommend you check out my review on that too. So thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. And of course, drive safe. I believe it's derived from the EA 888 Gen 3s of Volkswagen 4.
Yes.